Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I've just seen that Simone is in sunny Devon. I am in fairly overcast Cornwall today. So it just goes to show how different things can be not that far away from one another. So today is our monthly introduction to crowdfunding webinar. We'll be looking at all of the basics of crowdfunding, what you need in order to create an engaging and successful campaign. We'll be looking at our 3 steps to success. So that's going to be the planning, the creating and the running of your campaign. We'll look at the extra funding that's available. We'll also look at different ways that you can potentially promote your campaign as well. We have been joined by the wonderful Tanya as well from a crowdfunding campaign that has recently closed. She took part in the Aviva Community Fund. I know some of you are here today that are taking part in this cohort. So hopefully she'll have some great advice for you guys. She's not joining us just yet, so you probably will see her pop onto the screen at some point during the session. And then we'll hear from her later on. Just a few little housekeeping points before we get started. I am currently working from home. It's the school summer holidays at the moment, so you might hear some unexpected interruptions. I live on a main road. There could well be traffic, for example. Please do bear with me. Also, bear with us if there's any interruptions in internet service, whether it's your end or our end. Please do just press the refresh button just up at the top in your browser there, and you should come straight back into the live session. We've allowed 45 minutes for today's webinar. It tends to run over a little bit depending on the type of questions we get coming in from yourselves. Please do feel free to use the chat box on the right hand of your screen there. Some of you have already found that, which is brilliant. I'll try and check back in with that throughout the course of the session, but if I haven't been able to answer them whilst doing the slides, I will loop back round to the chat box at the end. Please do pop any crowdfunding questions in there for myself, or anything that you anything you'd like to ask Tanya as well towards the end of the session. Okay, we have a lot to get through today, so without further ado, let's get started. For some of you, crowdfunding might be a completely new concept. It might be something you've not heard of before. So crowdfunding in its essence is raising money, raising funds from your crowd or your community and your network. And the idea really is to raise small donations from people in order to create that total money raise that you need. So rather than having huge kind of investors, you would have lots of smaller donations. Crowdfunder UK was set up in order to tackle society's challenges by making ideas happen. So we have lots of really lovely community-based projects on our website. We also do, though, have startups, we have political campaigns, all sorts of different walks of life can come and crowdfund. But the ultimate kind of message behind Crowdfunder UK was in order to tackle society's challenges, allowing people to raise those funds to be able to better benefit those around them. Move myself out the way here, bear with me 1 second. Okay, so as you can just see, just a few statistics here, that since Crowdfunder UK started, which is almost 10 years ago now, next year I believe will be its 10th year anniversary, over £250 million has been raised for those projects crowdfunding on our website. We do see up to 300 projects added daily. Something that we always do advise people to have a look at is see what has come before them. When looking at setting up a project, take a look through the website, take a look at different projects that have set up, that have been successful. There is pretty much everything and anything you can imagine that has been crowdfunded for. So do take a look and see how that might resonate with your particular project. I touched upon briefly there the types of projects that can crowdfund. So we do see lots of community projects crowdfund really well. We also see sports clubs. It's a really great way for sports to fundraise. You've already got a captive crowd, for example. You've already got your club members. You can really use that crowdfunding mechanism to really connect with potential supporters as well. Businesses crowdfund incredibly well, especially startups or growing businesses. Campaigns and causes and charities. You can also fundraise as a personal cause as well. So you can fundraise on behalf of a charity, or you could raise monies for something that you need yourself for your own personal cause. So lots of scope for different fundraising within our platform. Crowdfunder UK is a rewards-based crowdfunding platform. This is where we differ from many of the other crowdfunding platforms out there, such as Just Giving or Kickstarter. We actually give our project owners the ability to offer rewards, which is a benefit of some kind in return for a financial contribution. You don't have to offer rewards. You could be a donation only project, which is of course absolutely fine. We do see, however, that when you're offering rewards, you might find that the financial donation to your page rises from around £20 for a donation up to around £50 on average for somebody claiming a reward. It's a great way to incentivize somebody's giving, and it's a really brilliant way to say thank you to those supporters that are actually willing to kind of part with their money to help your project happen. There are also many additional benefits to crowdfunding. Of course, primarily it's going to be the financial raise that you are hoping to achieve. Through going through the course of creating, planning, promoting your crowdfunder, you're going to have all of these wonderful benefits as well. So you're going to have validation created in your project. You're going to be able to build confidence by putting your idea out there, testing the water, if you like, with an idea to see if there is actually an appetite for it. You'll find that people are receptive, and those that are in support of you will leave things like comments of support, which can be really, really helpful and help boost your kind of motivation to really make this project happen. You're going to create a buzz around your idea. You're potentially going to be noticed by a wider audience as well. So in a way, it becomes a shop window for your particular project. It is a way to be able to reach those that you might not be able to reach just by word of mouth or through your initial network. It centralizes all of that information by creating a project page and having that link that you can share with people. It provides a really brilliant resource to actually shout about who you are and what you're doing and push it to a wider audience. All of those people that are supporting you will automatically become your advocates. We are advocates for certain projects here at Crowdfunder. Many of us have supported projects, have claimed rewards, have spoken about them to our networks as well. So when you resonate with your supporters, they will become your engaged audience and they will talk about your project to their networks. That's why it's so important to bring your supporters along for the journey by creating an engaging page, by posting updates onto your crowdfunding page and really making them feel part of the journey with you. It will have a knock-on effect of them going on and speaking about your project and your amazing idea to everybody that they know as well. You'll learn new skills. So we provide lots of free resources on our website for you to utilize. Once you've worked your way through those, you will be crowdfunding like a pro. So you'll have brilliant transferable skills, whether that be in networking, creating engaging content, promotion, marketing, fundraising in general. These are all things that you can carry through with you into different areas of your life as well. What makes us stand out alongside the rewards-based crowdfunding is the extra funding and support that we offer. So we work with over 70 partners, extra funding partners, and that's both regionally and nationally, to enable eligible projects to actually tap into pots of money in addition to raising money from the crowd. So we call this extra funding. When you set up a page via Crowdfunder UK, you will go through a whole section where you are entering information about your possible outcomes for your project, where your project is based, all of these things where our amazing computer system will match you with our funding partners. And if you take a look at the T's and C's, and if it's something that is a good fit for you, always put in an application, because you could be in receipt of some wonderful extra funding from a local authority or a national partner, for example. It's definitely worth doing. So a brief overview here of how it works. You get started by signing up to Crowdfunder UK. You would then create a page to tell your story, and you'd add a range of rewards if you would like to. You would then go live with your project. So you can schedule a go live date, or you can literally just press go live and it would be published onto our website for everybody to see. You would then be responsible for sharing that page with your network. It is a slight misconception that once you've gone live on the Crowdfunder website, that will somehow generate lots of pledges coming in. As I've mentioned, there's over 300 projects added daily. So there's thousands of projects on there. It is your responsibility as a project owner to promote your own page using the link that we have given you for your project page. And you bring people to the website, you bring people to view your page and donate. There are two different ways in which you can raise funds on Crowdfunder, one of which is all or nothing, and the other is flexible funding. All or nothing is essentially if you do not hit 100% of your target that you have selected, then you will receive nothing. Your crowdfunder will close unsuccessfully and everything will be returned to the extra funding partners or your supporters. Alternatively, you can select flexible funding, which is keep what you raise. So every bit of money that you raise from your crowd specifically, you will receive at the close of your crowdfunder. You may not receive the extra funding pledge. It does depend on the particular partner as to whether they would allow that to still be paid out, or whether the pledge criteria is that you hit 100% of your target. All or nothing can sound incredibly scary, and you might wonder why anybody would opt for that. However, if you have a piece of equipment, for example, or you have a capital cost that costs X amount of money, let's say £10,000, and actually anything less than £10,000 is not going to cut it. You're not going to be able to buy that piece of equipment. For transparency's sake, you might decide to go for all or nothing, because you're not going to be able to make your project happen unless you hit that £10,000 mark. It also creates a really good sense of urgency, not only for yourself, you're going to put the legwork in to make sure you hit that target, but also for your supporters. Your overarching message for promotion becomes, we have to hit this target, otherwise it's not going to happen. So actually it can be a really good fuel and really good motivator to make sure that you continue to build that momentum throughout the course of the crowdfunder and ultimately are successful. The other side of that coin is if you know you can make use of any money raised, you might be a charity, or you might know that your project can get off the ground with anything, a small amount of money, then opt for flexible funding, as this will enable you to receive any money raised at the close of your crowdfunder. If you're a flexible funding crowdfunder, if you raise any money at all, you are deemed to be successful at the close of your crowdfunding campaign. That leads us nicely onto setting a target. You must make sure that you put a little bit of time and effort into setting your target. Make sure it's realistic, something you can achieve from the size of crowd that you know you can reach. And also make sure it's the minimum needed to make the project happen. When we talk about the size of a crowd, 1 in 20 people approximately that land on your page that come to view it will donate. If we take that £50 average that we mentioned earlier with the offering rewards, you would need to put it in front of around 2,000 people viewing your page to raise around £5,000. So that's a lot of people. So do be realistic of what's achievable, but also make sure that, it's an amount that is going to get your project off the ground. There is extra funding potentially available. There are other ways of reaching a wider audience, but you do need to put in the work. So the more you put into it, the more you will get out of it. Always, as I mentioned, start with the minimum needed and plan to overfund. We give you the ability to put something in place called a stretch target, which comes into play once you've hit 100% of your initial target. So let's go back to that. Let's say it's a van. We need £10,000 to buy a van for our new zero waste shop that we want to be able to take that on the road. So we need £10,000. That's going to be our target. But actually, if we were to raise £15,000, we could kit the back out of it with all of the shelving that we need, the cool boxes and all those bits and pieces to really make this project fly. So the minimum is going to be £10,000. We need that for the van. I'm going to set a stretch target of £15,000 so that when I hit my £10,000 target and my project is still live, I still have the ability to continue to raise money towards my £15,000 goal, which is the bells, the whistles, the frills on top of my initial minimum target. You can add a piece of text as well. so that you would thank people for their donations so far. And with the additional money raised, we are going to do X, Y, and Z. It's a really lovely way of continuing to tap into your supporters' support and bring in more pledges as well while you're live. Another thing to bear in mind when you're setting your target is fees. There are different fees associated with different projects depending on the organizational setup. So this is just a brief snapshot of our overall kind of fee table, which you can find on our website. But for example, not-for-profits or charities have a 0% platform fee. So the platform fee is essentially the fee for us to host your page and to access all of those resources, whereas every single project will be subject to transaction fees. So that's per transaction, you will see these fees attached. All fees will be deducted from any money raised at the close of the crowdfunder. They don't get deducted in real time. So for example, if you are an all or nothing project, you won't see any of these fees if you're unsuccessful because everybody would have been refunded. You will have your payout at the end of your crowdfunding project within around 7 days of closing, and that will be minus any fees. Okay, but what you want to do is make sure that you're absorbing any fees in your total target. So you might want to plan to have that target set at around 5 to 7% above what you need to make your project happen in order to absorb any fees. You also want to have a think about any rewards, for example, that you might be offering. Do they have any delivery costs attached? Do you need to make anything? Are you going to be creating things with a financial cost to you? Incorporate that into the target again, so you're coming away with what you need to make the project happen. Be careful to make sure that you've considered any additional unexpected costs in relation to your crowdfunding campaign when you set that target. So just having a quick look into the chat box before we take a look at what makes a good campaign. We've got lots of hellos, which is brilliant. Oh, it's sunny in Devon and sunny in Northern Ireland, which is brilliant. And sunny in Portugal. Oh, great that we've got people from Portugal as well. Hadrian's Wall, top of England. You're from all over today, which is lovely. Thank you for joining us. But no questions as yet, so I'll crack on. Okay, so what makes a good crowdfunding campaign? Ultimately, it's a balance of these three things. So the team, yourself, those around you that are putting the crowdfunding campaign together, your network, who you can reach, how big is your crowd, how engaged are they going to be, and the story of your project and your idea. You want to be able to have an overlap of all of these three things to make sure that that's a recipe for brilliant success there. And why do people pledge? Well, ultimately, those that are in support of you and your idea, it might be friends, family, colleagues, team members that are already behind the idea, are going to support you because they believe in the idea and what you're doing. There are going to be other people, generally your slightly wider audience, that want to support your project because they really love the rewards that you've got on offer. So again, you want to strike a balance between those two. You want to have a really engaging story, telling your project, letting people know how important it is for this to happen. And you also want to make sure that those rewards are really, really inviting to not only people that know your project, so you might offer some things that are directly linked to your particular project, but you also want to see if you can offer rewards that have a slightly wider appeal that will push out that incentivized giving to a wider community and a wider crowd. So we have 3 steps to success, we like to call them. We have the planning your project, creating your project, and running your project. We have brilliant resources in our Learn platform. I am going to be sharing some links to all of this into the chat box, and I'll also put them into a follow-up email as well. So our Learn platform is a great place to start. We have 4 separate modules for you to work through. Again, it's free to sign up to. You can dip in and out of it once you've set up a login. But you'll have an introduction to crowdfunding, and then you'll have the planning, creating, and running your project. By working your way through these sections, you will have all of the information needed to put a really successful campaign together. Just a little brief screenshot of what that actually looks like. It's a very user-friendly tool. There's lots of kind of short videos, multiple choice questions. It's a really easy, user-friendly, first great place to start your journey. And I highly recommend that you all take advantage of it. And as I mentioned, I'll put a link in a mo. The next thing that I suggest you do, or alongside, is to actually look at what projects have come before you. So this is just a snapshot of our website. On the top there, you can see 4 separate tabs. If you go to the Explore tab, this is the page you'll be funneled through to. You can search by any keywords. You can search projects by location. You can search by category. One thing that I would always suggest is you are searching, rather than all projects, you're searching successful projects. This will give you a real clear indicator of what people have been able to achieve in similar projects to yourself. They might not be exactly the same, but chances are there has been somebody who's done something within a similar vein to yourself. Take inspiration from their page, see what works well for you as a reader. What kind of rewards do they have? Are there things there that actually are appealing to you as somebody who doesn't know much about that particular project or doesn't live in the locality? So really do take inspiration from what has come before you. Another key tool that you'll be asked to create when going through the Learn platform is the network map. This is something which is going to be your absolute kind of gold dust resource throughout the whole of the process. You're going to put this together in the early stages, and you're going to refer back to it throughout the planning and also the running of your campaign. So some people will have an Excel spreadsheet for this. Some people will have a massive great piece of paper, Post-its on the wall, whatever works well for you. But ultimately, you need to have a list of contacts within all of these different areas of your network in order to tap into your crowd. So you're going to be looking at friends and family, team members. They're going to be your core network. You'll also be looking at existing supporters. So that might be people that you already have a working relationship with. You might already be up and running as an organization. You might have a mailing list, or you might have people that use your services. Those are going to be people that will 9 times out of 10 get behind you because they're already invested in what you do. You're going to be looking at partners. Partners may be suppliers in some instances. They might be venues. They might be collaborative organizations. Think quite widely about partners. You're also going to be looking to utilize Facebook and other social media platforms in order to link in with people who are like-minded. So use your own organization's Facebook. If you don't have one set up for your project, set one up ahead of time. Make sure that you're creating a crowd and a buzz for that Facebook page before you launch. But also use your own personal Facebook. You can tap into different groups around you, and I'll show you how to do that in order to widen your reach. Also look at speaking with local businesses. You know, that could be the cafe that you normally go and grab your lunch from. Talk to people in the supermarket, on the high street. You want to make sure that people are in support of what you're doing, sharing your crowdfunder, offering rewards if they can do, and ultimately financially supporting your project if possible. And then local people as well. There may well be networking events that you can piggyback onto, summer fairs at this time of year. Put yourself in front of as many people as possible. Really push yourself out of your comfort zone. It's a really, really challenging thing to do, but a really rewarding thing to do as well. And then finally, press and blogs. So most people will have a kind of community or a local media outlet that they would be able to approach, maybe even a regional one. Make sure that you're having those conversations early on about the fact that you're going to be running a crowdfunder. And I'll talk a little bit later on about when is a good time to actually ask them to put something into print or out on their social media channels as well. You don't want to be too gung-ho and get them to start shouting about your crowdfunder until it looks in a really healthy position in terms of supporters and financial raise. But we'll cover that in just a second. So as I briefly mentioned, everybody can help you. So when you're talking to those local businesses, when you're talking to your friends and family and your network, in an ideal scenario, you're going to secure each of these things from every single person that you speak to. So you're going to get them sharing your project. They're going to offer you a reward to put up on your page, and they're also going to make a pledge or donation. You might not be able to achieve that from everybody, but if you can secure at least one of these things from everyone you speak to, you're on a really good road to success with your crowdfunding campaign. So finding your audience, finding a wider audience can sometimes be a bit of a hurdle for some organisations and some projects. There are a couple of really easy ways that you can go about trying to achieve that. One of which is using Facebook. So by typing in keywords into the search bar and selecting groups, as you can see highlighted here, that will bring up all of the Facebook groups locally, nationally, that are talking about similar things to your particular project. So then you would simply drop a message to the admin of those groups and see if they might promote your crowdfunder on your behalf. Can you leave a message? Can you leave a post on their Facebook group all about what you're doing? And the other thing would be using Google, again, typing in keywords, but this time selecting news. And that will bring up all of those media outlets, all of those bloggers and influencers, radio even, that again are writing about or talking about things that have some resonance with your particular project. And then go onto those different websites and search for those contact names, get in contact early on and see if you can queue up that support for later on in your crowdfunding campaign. Before we take a look at creating the page, I've seen a few questions coming in. So I'm just going to have a little look and see if we can go through them. Okay, so Joe, part of the Aviva Community Fund, do the fees apply to us? There will be transaction fees associated. You will have the fee structure will be part of your project page setup. Before you go live, you would need to agree to particular fees. So all of that has been set up beforehand. Double check on your page when you have the schedule or go live section. Off the top of my head, I can't think whether it's completely zero for everybody, but it will depend on your organizational structure, Joe. So if you're charity or not for profit, it would be zero platform, but everybody does have transaction fees regardless of where they're coming through the platform. This is from Ruth. We're also part of Aviva. Hello, Ruth from Devon. How are you? Diane, can you factor in insurance and road tax if you're going for a van? Yes, you could do. I would say be transparent about it. The best thing to do for your supporters is to let them know exactly what the money's going to go towards. So let's say you're going to raise £10,000 for the van, but actually, you know, a few £1,000s on top of that is going to make sure that it's up and running for the next year. So that might be your stretch target, or that might be incorporated into that initial target. But just be transparent, let people know exactly what the money's going towards, and that becomes a really lovely thing for them to aim for. But yes, that's absolutely fine. Cheryl, can you apply for more than one project? Bear, could you just confirm what you mean with that one? So you can set up multiple projects at any time. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that because it's a lot of work. I would probably do one and then leave a nice gap, let your crowd kind of get their breath, let you take a break, and then run another crowdfunding campaign, depending on what it's for. Maybe there's multiple phases of something you need to raise money for. But in terms of extra funding, you can apply for multiple pots of money if that's what you're referring to. So if your project has been matched with 5, 6, 7 different funds, as long as they're a good fit for you and you're eligible for all of those, you can absolutely put multiple applications in. Cheryl, can we get the link of this sent? Yes, absolutely. This is all going to be sent in a replay, which will come through as a follow-up email in the next couple of days. So that's fine. It's all recorded. Okay, Ruth, what information should we give our early funders so that we have a lot of donations when the page goes live? E.g., is it simply a case of giving them the web address for our crowdfunding page and ask them to go online at 12 noon when it opens and donates? Oh, hi, Tanya.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm on.
Yes, you're here.
How are you doing? Good to see you.
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good, good.
Yeah. Would you mind, because I'm just in the throes, are you okay to sit in the wings for a few moments until I get round to your section? Is that okay?
Absolutely no rush at all, as long as I'm not too late.
No, you're perfect. You're absolutely fine. I've got a few little bits to go through, and then I've got a lovely slide about you guys. So if you wouldn't mind turning your camera and mic off, and I'll give you a shout in a little while. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Now, this is a different, it all looks different here. Where's the camera and the mic?
It should be up at the top, or if you hover over your picture maybe. Can you see it up at the top there?
I've just got myself in a little box with nothing above it.
Okay, I might be able to do it for you. Just bear with me 1 second.
I've just come out of Teams and Zooms, and right, I can't see. I can't
right,
see
I've turned your camera. I should be able to do your mic as well, and I should be able to bring you back again in a little while. So that is the lovely Tanya. She's going to be joining us to talk about her project, which was part of Aviva actually as well. Okay, so getting back to drumming up those early pledges, what I would recommend is that you let all of your core network know that your crowdfunder is coming. You can let your wider network know that a crowdfunder is coming. You don't necessarily want to give any specific dates, or if you do, you want to give a date that's maybe a day or so later than when you plan to go live. So you're going to speak to your core network. You're going to ask them to do exactly that, Ruth. You're going to say, we go live at 12 noon on such and such a date. Can I rely on you, please, to come along and donate to our page as soon as we go live? You will not be able to share the crowdfunding link with them until you have gone live. You will have something called a preview link for people to give feedback on your page and have a look at what you're doing, but that expires after a couple of days, but you will not, they can't donate via that. So you go live, you then get back in touch with them and say, here you go, here's the link, pop your donations on now, please. They all come along and do that for you. Suddenly you've raised 10% of your overall target, and at that point, that's when you go out to your wider audience. Okay, so you do almost a soft launch with your friends and family, nearest and dearest, close network, and then once you've got a bit of money on there, then that becomes your, I'm going to shout about it on social media, for example. Okay, Simone, any hints and tips of being part of Aviva? So all of the crowdfunding information that we're giving you today is really relevant for anybody who's part of the Aviva Community Fund as well. So the idea behind it is that you're all raising funds via your crowd, and also you're then making sure that your page is really engaging to resonate with the Aviva employees also. The more you're connecting with your crowd as a general whole, the more you will have that resonance with the Aviva community too, okay? So it's all about putting in an engaging page together, raising funds from everywhere, so your crowd as well. You can also apply for any extra funding you've been matched with. It's not just Aviva. You can also look at who else you might be able to have money land on your page from. But everything is useful, so make use of the information from today as well. Again, this is for Aviva. Does or can this go out to members of the public too? Absolutely. We encourage you all to crowdfund as part of the Aviva Community Fund. It's one aspect of raising money, the employee donations. The most successful Aviva Community Fund campaigns have crowdfunded really well alongside the Aviva employees giving them their £25 pledges. So ultimately, it's exercising crowdfunding as well as engaging with Aviva. Okay, so going back to Cheryl, multiple projects and multiple funding was the question. Thanks very much. No worries. Yeah, I would suggest, depending on maybe if you're a charity, that's a different kettle of fish, and we can look at that in a minute. But I would say try and avoid running multiple crowdfunders at the same time, because you might find that actually it's a bit too much. You might want to be doing it consecutively as opposed to all at the same time. Okay, so going back to creating and making a page then. Again, really user-friendly. You can see along the top of this screenshot here, you've got 8 different sections you're going to work your way through, one of which is extra funding, as I mentioned. But the first thing that you're going to be able to do is actually edit your project link, okay? So when you can see highlighted here, the project slug, so the last little section of your project link, you can edit. Make it something that has real relevance to your project page title. You can see here that the name of this project is Forget Me Not Newquay's Eco Florist, and they have changed the end bit of their project link to Forget Me Not Newquay's Eco Florist. This is great because it means that people straight away know what that link is relevant to. It's a really brilliant way of making sure that people know that that link is legitimate as well. As you can appreciate at the moment, there's lots of kind of spam going around, lots of scams as well. If it's just a link with lots of numbers and letters, people might not be that that happy about clicking on it. They might be kind of hesitant. So make sure that people really know what it is that link is taking them to, when you edit that. Just a quick example of a project page, nice and engaging. They've got a little video at the top there. This is actually a brewery that we're adding to their existing business. But looking at the page itself, lots of brilliant images with people. People like to support people. So if you can, have yourselves in the picture, have the people that are going to benefit from your particular project, members of the community within your images on your page as well. Use headings, use subheadings, pick out any key information in bold. You really want to break up your page to make sure it's as digestible as possible. So you're really captivating the reader's eye throughout the whole of your page. Think about what we're like now with social media. People are short on time. You've really got to hook them in and get them looking at all of that relevant information. Now, looking at donations and rewards, you have the option to add rewards to your page. Every project can receive donations. If you want to pop rewards on there, all the better. We've kind of categorized them into 4 separate sections, really. So at the lower price end of the scale might be things like a simple thank you. That might just be a virtual high five for £5. That might be a shout out on social media. It might be a physical postcard through the post. It might be a little video message from the project owner emailed to the supporters, for example. But those generally come at a lower price point. At the other end of the scale, you've got things like corporate and sponsorship. So if you are able to, don't be shy to put, really corporate rewards on there. It might be that you have elements of the project that you could put out to sponsorship, whether that's an area of a building, whether that's certain equipment, and those can be higher price rewards. We do see sponsorship and corporate being within the hundreds and thousands. Okay, so you might be able to offer a corporate day, for example, a team building day, something that's out of your wheelhouse normally, but actually you can price it accordingly. And then something that works really, really well is experiences and events. If you have the capacity to be running events or experiences throughout the course of your crowdfunder, maybe a launch event or a close event, that you can sell tickets to via the crowdfunder, or maybe experiences. Maybe it's something, let's go for you're a yoga teacher and actually you've teamed up with a few different collaborative organizations and you're going to be able to offer a day of well-being, and that comes with you teaching yoga in the morning. You've got somebody doing meditation, you've got somebody catering, so you've got lunch on hand as well. You might have some guest speakers in the afternoon. That's a really lovely experience that you might not be able to offer, or you might not offer as part of your everyday services. So when people feel like they're getting something unique or they're a VIP in some way, that's when they're going to really decide that they're going to want to give a little bit more, because they're going to feel super special for actually claiming that reward. And then products and services. So that can be, obviously, if you're a business, chances are you've got products and services to offer. If you're an organization that has that already, see if you can offer them at a slight discount, or maybe it's an early bird sale of something. Also, reach out to your network. Is there anybody else that you know that can offer products and services? So as I mentioned before, it's great to offer things from yourself as a project owner or an organization, but what can those around you gift to your project page as well, to your campaign? Ideally, you want them to be gifted. If they do come at some financial cost to yourself, then make sure you factor that into your target. But most people, local businesses and people that want to support your project, if they are unable to financially, it's a really lovely way for them to be able to support you. So you might be quite surprised once you actually start asking people if they can gift a reward as to the response that you get. Now, this is a really exciting partnership that we've recently launched. We've actually teamed up with Strava. So if anybody is setting any fundraising challenges, or maybe they're fundraising for a particular charity, you can actually link your Strava account to your fundraising page. So this is brilliant for sports clubs. But it works really well for everybody. You can opt to be a multiplier. Now, this is a type of crowdfunding campaign where you're allowing other people to raise money on your behalf. You would have a little section on your page, which is become a fundraiser. Pardon me. And so all of these people that are looking at your page can opt to become a fundraiser on your behalf and raise money with their own little child pages, is what we call them. So yours is the parent page, and then you have lots of these little child fundraiser pages. all of their supporter numbers and all of the money that they raise automatically filters onto your page too. So it's a really great way of casting the net wide. Maybe you want to set a fundraising challenge, for example, and this is where Strava would come in, which is brilliant. So you'd be able to see their progress. It would keep those multiplier, those fundraising pages really engaging, especially if you've set a challenge. You'll be able to see who's in the lead of that particular challenge. Can you incentivize that challenge in any way by saying whoever raises the most or walks the most miles throughout the month of August will claim this particular amazing incentive prize that you might be able to give them? But it's a brilliant way to keep your supporters engaged by giving them the ability to raise on your behalf. Okay, just a quick dip back into the chat box before we get into running the project. Cheryl, I'll go through charities in a minute. So Ruth, I thought you said earlier that we wouldn't be given the page link until we launched. Is the Project Slug something different? No, so the Project Slug is going to be your project link. The live project link that people can donate via will not be up and running until you go live. However, you will have something called a preview link, which is generated, and that is something which will enable you to share your page with friends and family, colleagues, for a little bit of feedback. Maybe you want to see if they will just run an eye over it, see if it is engaging for them, see if there's any rewards that you might have missed that they actually would like to see on there. But in terms of donating and pledging, nobody would be able to use a preview link to do that. Your live project link will only be generated once your project has gone live, but it will be the one that you have created in your page. The one you have edited will be your live link. Okay, just won't be up and running until you go live. Okay, Simone, are the rewards for every pledge, or could you just do it for one or two, more like a competition? So you set the rewards, you decide what price they're going to be, and you decide how many of them are available. Okay, so not everybody's going to claim on them. Some people will still just want to donate, but it gives you the option to offer an incentive, a financial benefit, a reward, and a benefit of some kind for that financial contribution. But your supporter needs to claim them, so they will appear on your page, and it will have claim this reward, and they will have to actually select that in order to then have that reward sent to them, virtually by mail, whatever it might be. I hope that answers that one. So no, they're not for every pledge. People have the option to claim them or not. Okay, so get launch ready. Make sure that if you can, commit to a go live date. It's a really good idea to set yourself a deadline and stick to it. It gives you that focus to make sure that you're launching on a particular day. Review your marketing plan. So this is all part of our Learn resources. Make sure you have a plan in place to market your crowdfunder. Have those first 20 pledges lined up. So as I mentioned, speak to your close network. So your friends, your family, your colleagues. See if you can line up 20 different people to pledge onto your campaign as soon as it goes live. And once those are on your page, that's when you're going to start bringing it to a wider audience. So you might actually decide to throw a launch event. That launch event is maybe going to be the day after or the evening of you going live with your soft launch, in inverted commas. So actually at your launch event, your crowdfunder already has those 20 pledges on there. It already looks like it's on the road to success. Success breeds success. Okay, so do not start shouting about a crowdfunder, even at a launch event with no money raised and no supporters. People don't want to be the first one. So make sure you've already got those pledges on there before you do anything like that. Promote through all the different mediums of marketing and promotion. We'll look at that in a second. And make sure you engage with your project dashboard. So that is something that you have access to when you go live, and that's a way of monitoring all of the activity of your crowdfunding campaign, and also a way to manage all of the different aspects of it as well. So just to have a little look, because this is something that's really worth bearing in mind. So normally the first week of fundraising usually sees about half of the total raised. People are really excited about the fact that you've launched, you've drummed up some interest in your crowdfunder, you've created a real buzz, you've gone live, people have got behind you, and then all of a sudden it starts to trail off and you get a little bit wobbly and wonder what's happened. It's completely natural. Okay, we generally see it tail off in the middle and then pick back up again towards the end of the campaign. So just kind of before it closes, people get back involved again. Your task as a project owner is to try and combat that lull in the middle. So that's why having a really solid marketing plan can be really, really useful and absolutely necessary in order to make sure that that dip is either completely eradicated or as small as possible. So that's where you're going to be making sure you're reactive and promoting throughout that time. So, brief overview, we recommend running a successful crowdfunder for around 4 to 5 weeks. You don't really want to run it for much longer than that. You will find that that lull in the middle is just increased if you have it for much longer than that. It doesn't equal more money coming in, okay? What it does equal is people tuning off from the crowdfunding message for a longer period of time. Put about the same amount of time into running the campaign as planning the campaign as you do running, if you can. But ultimately, you're going to be reaching out to your team, friends and family, as I mentioned, first and foremost, getting those initial pledges on. Once they are on your page, then reach out to existing supporters, partners, beyond that, Facebook and local people. So this is referring back to that network map that we looked at earlier. And then beyond that, you'll be looking at local businesses and finally press and blogs. You want the press to be shouting about your project when you look like you're in a really, really healthy position to actually be successful. So here's some key communication channels here. Do not discount things like word of mouth. Make sure you're talking to everybody about your crowdfunder. Use print if you can, so flyers, posters. You have access to a QR code when you have your live project dashboard as well. You also have access to a widget that you could put onto your website, for example, which is a live fundraising widget, which is really useful. When you're using email communication, really try not to just send blanket emails. If you normally would speak to somebody using a contact name, do that. Make it as personal as you can. Generally, at around 20% raised, that's when you're going to be reaching out via email. If you normally speak to someone on the phone, WhatsApp, Facebook message them, do that. Don't suddenly change the way that you speak with them. It's going to be more engaging if you pick up the phone and talk to somebody than it is them receiving kind of that email later on. Again, I mentioned events. If you have the capacity to have a launch event or run a couple of events, fundraising events throughout the course of the crowdfunder, please do. Now that we can be face-to-face, it works really well. Maybe a closing event, something that you can sell tickets to throughout the course of the crowdfunder. And then when you're around 40% raised, that's when you're going to be starting to shout about it on social media. I would suggest once you are over halfway there, so at around 60%, that's when you're going to want to engage the press as well. Not really beforehand. People want to see that they might not necessarily live locally. They might not necessarily 100% be your core kind of community beneficiaries, but they see that the project's going to happen. They want to allow, they want to really help you get there. So that's where the press is going to come into it. So 60 to 70% raised is a good shout for speaking to them. This is just a quick snapshot of your dashboard that I mentioned. So you have the managing your project aspect where you can do pretty much anything in regards to your project here. You can extend the project, close it early, all of those different things. And then here on the right, you see the live dashboard analytics. You can see what you've raised to date. And then you can see what you're trending towards based on the activity that is happening with your page. You can see here just on the graph that there was a real spike in pledges at the beginning and they have tailed off. And there's been kind of sporadic pledges here and there. The best thing to do is to look at this graph and compare it to what you've been doing with your promotion. Has it tallied that when you do a really engaging social media post, which has got some human interest point and isn't just we're crowdfunding, that it actually brings people to donate on the page? Keep that content varied. Use the dashboard as a way of kind of validating what's working and what's not, and change things up accordingly. Add rewards if you need to. Make sure that your content is really varied on social media. People will engage more with a story about you or the organization or what's happened that day versus we're crowdfunding again and again and again. Okay, this is for, was it Cheryl, who's a charity? So Crowdfunding for charities is a really exciting thing to do. We actually give charities the ability to set up a charity profile, which remains on our charity section of the website. So that would be an overarching I want to say campaign. It's not. It's a page essentially. It's a profile, so people can donate specifically just to the charity. You don't need to be having any projects up and running. We do allow you to receive Nectar points by way of a donation. If you've been approved, you need to apply for that. But if you're approved, people can donate a combination of their Nectar points and money from their card, or just Nectar points. It's a really wonderful partnership that we've got up and running. But it also means that people can fundraise on your behalf. They can become a fundraiser. You can also set up projects if you so wish. There might be something which is time sensitive, which actually you've got your overall profile page as a charity, but there's a particular project that you need to raise a set amount of money for in the next few months, for example. You can set up a project and have it linked to your charity profile. It's a really exciting time for charities, and I definitely recommend utilizing Crowdfunder by way of fundraising for charities. These are just some of the features that you have access to. We've also partnered with Swift Aid, so you can decide to just accrue gift aid via your page and actually manually draw that down from HMRC. Alternatively, it's a fee-paying service with Crowdfunder, but you can opt to go via the Swift Aid route and actually have that paid out as part of your crowdfunding campaign as well. So some really lovely developments happening within the charity world of Crowdfunder. Definitely one to keep an eye on. This is just a little brief overview of the Nectar Donate. So these are some of the bigger charities that have obviously partnered with us, but we do have loads of regional charities as well. Lots of smaller ones that are really kind of utilising having a face on Crowdfunder too. Extra funding. This is something which really sets us aside from the other crowdfunding platforms out there. We have over £10 million worth of match funding available to eligible projects. As I mentioned, both nationally and regionally, some really exciting partnerships as well, with lots of different pots of money floating around that you could be eligible for. When setting up your crowdfunding page, you need to make sure that under the extra funding tab, you are ticking this particular box, which allows us to share your project details with our match funders. If this box isn't ticked, our amazing computer system won't be able to match you with anybody. Make sure you've also got a relevant postcode when you're setting up your page. And then in this particular section, you'll be asked who's likely to benefit from your project. So that's going to be the demographic of people that are going to benefit. And then below that, you'll also have possible outcomes. Make sure that you are ticking all of the relevant boxes for those that are a fit with your particular project and the outcomes. And then our system will match you with any particular match funders. And you can see here that this particular project, one of the matches is the East Sussex Building Stronger Communities Fund. They would just need to click on find out more, and that would take them through to an application where they can submit an application for that particular fund. It's worth still looking at the T's and C's and the eligibility criteria on our main extra funding page. I will share details of that. But if you're a good fit, absolutely put in those multiple different applications. You never know how many of those different funding pots you may be approved for. And it's a really exciting way to increase your financial raise. We also have loads of learning support on hand to help you. We want to see you make the money that you need. So we have webinars such as this. We also have a weekly drop-in session, which is every Tuesday at the moment at 10 o'clock. You can book via Eventbrite, as you have done onto this one. We've got a brilliant online learning resource, as I mentioned, and we had a little look at. And then on top of that, we've got the Knowledge Hub, which is been completely revamped, relaunched. It's a wonderful, wonderful hub of resources with loads of different articles for every single stage of your crowdfunding journey. We have tailored email advice. So depending on how you sign into Crowdfunder, whether you're a charity, sports club, not-for-profit or business, for example, you'll have tailored advice on how to best put that campaign together and signposting you to the best resources for yourself as well. Got a brilliant customer support team. It's a wonderful team down here in Cornwall. It's a small team, so please do check the help centre ahead of contacting support. There are brilliant FAQs and guides within the help centre, which you should be able to find all of the answers that you need to your questions. If it's something above and beyond that, then absolutely do contact support as well. And that live project dashboard is really useful for all of your crowdfunding campaign. Make sure you're utilizing that. Okay, this is just a snapshot, a little bit of the the Knowledge Hub. So you can log in and sign up for those live online sessions. You can be taken directly to the extra funding page and the help center as well. So rather than having to navigate the website to find these, it's all within the Knowledge Hub as well. Okay, so thank you for all of that. It was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of crowdfunding. I'm just going to move myself around here. She says, Tanya, could I ask you back in, please? Hopefully you can hear me. Let's see if I can pop. Hopefully you'll be able to put your camera and mic back on. Can you hear me, Tanya? There she is. Hello. Oh, you're on mute at the moment.
There we go. I found it this time. It's at the top. Hiya.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us as well. I know you had other things on this morning, so thank you so much. For those attending today, could you please tell us a little bit about your project?
So this project with People Know How was called Reconnecting Communities. People Know How launched a service called Reconnect back in 2017, and basically to help people get digitally connected. And we're part of the Good Things Foundation. If anyone knows about, we have digital poverty. Our Reconnect service was actually about to close in 2019, and then the lockdown happened, and People Know How then had the contacts. It's all about the networking, and we worked with a couple of corporate organizations who had some spare, cleaned out devices, and we became the Reconnect door-to-door drop-in center in the lockdown. That's just an overview. And then I joined People Know How in February 2022, when we were all sitting back and going, okay, that COVID funding's gone. We're not actually a digital charity who can repair. What should we do now? We still want to campaign, and this is our Connectivity Now campaign of getting people connected. And so I came in February, joined the company in February to really help them as development and external relationship manager to look at how we can go out and start to explore and talk to the communities and collaborate with partners. Now, People Know How hadn't done any crowdfunding before. It trebled in size over lockdown, all because of COVID and Scottish Government funding. So I took not persuasion, but I saw it, and I thought it's one way of me stepping out of the box. And you see, I'm still working at home. Sometimes it's still difficult to go and meet new people. It wasn't like I could go and attend lots of networking events when I joined in February. Scotland was still in lockdown in January. So I was like, how else can I start to talk to people and meet people? And I came across crowdfunding, and I persuaded the team, come on, let me have a go. And they said, well, over to you. We don't have the time. You have a go at it. So I could keep asking me questions, or I could keep chatting about this.
You carry on. It's really interesting. You carry on.
So I went on to Aviva Community Fund. I hadn't been directly in fundraising before. My role is development, but I have the experience having worked in the charity sector for 10 years and obviously worked alongside a fundraising team before. So I came about it very much. My background is marketing and business development, and here I saw marketing. Okay, who's my target audience? How can I reach out to them? And I can't see everyone, but everyone, the first time I joined this meeting with Zoe, just brilliant, but actually made me a bit nervous because of course, in a positive way. It's like being at the start line of a race. I was challenged, but a bit nervous. I was thinking, none of it's easy. I thought, but I've got to keep asking questions. I've got to keep learning from other people. And as Zoe was just showing, the help resources online are just fantastic. The team are fantastic. I'm someone who stays right to the end of every question and asks questions. I'm not just someone who puts the questions on the notes page. I put my hand up and I speak spoke directly to the team, and they were absolutely brilliant. Again, there's so many examples there on Crowdfunder. We went through the Aviva platform, and I just spent, like, going into a library, I just spent the first however many days, weeks, reading, looking at how other people had, gone out to talk to the marketplace, and, saved some of my favorites, thought, yeah, how are we going to be understood? I talked with our comms team. Now, back in February, we didn't have a comms team. We are starting to grow, and we did recruit a comms coordinator in June. But again, very relatively small, third sector. You don't have a big marketing comms team. We had a digital team, and knew they'd never had someone in fundraising before. But, we worked together. We'd been researching this. We'd had collaborative partners for quite a few years, who then came back. I said to them, like, who we'd partnered with, we want to do this. What can you suggest? What message can we save? So, like everything, start on a Word document, start writing things down, start sharing it with your team, or maybe some potential collaborative partners, and think, does this make sense for you? So I would write and read. This didn't have, that I've done application forms where, you've got 2,000 characters or 1,000 character, and you're cut off like a Twitter message. You can't write anymore. But what I found is get the headlines, get the titles, get the video. I was like saying to my team, we need a video. All the best ones have a video. And of course, we had created some videos, and we haven't got an expert video department. But the videos we had done before, we were able just to edit, scale down to those 2 minutes, and it had a title, and it's been watched lots of times, which is brilliant. And when I actually then put the words onto the screen, onto the platform, which, as Zoe said, no one can see until it goes live. So I'm from marketing. I had my calendar of to-do list of, I've got to do this by then, I've got to do this, I've got to get a team of supporters ready to look at it. And then my digital design colleague was able to go on and put we didn't put photos on, but she put some creative colours, which again really kind of helps people read quite quickly of the message we were trying to provide. And then it was the start button. So any other questions, or shall I just keep going?
No, you were right. I'm just wondering whether, and you've touched on a few brilliant things there, and actually, like you say, it's great to have a video. And I mentioned it a bit earlier about how short on time people are. And in the way that we view social media is a really good way to compare how people will view your page. Hook them in with a video if you can. It doesn't need to be highly edited, does it? If some of the most engaging ones have been captured quite clearly on like a phone, and edited in kind of some free software. Yours is brilliant because obviously you've pieced together quite professional video content, which is wonderful if you have the capacity, but others shouldn't be put off, should they? You've probably seen a fair few videos when you did your research, and probably the most engaging ones that resonated with you were not necessarily highly edited. Would that be correct to say?
Yeah, absolutely. As you said earlier, when you showed the example of a picture of the team, who's behind this, it can be just some colleagues chatting, but it's really lovely to hear the real and see the real thing, the real people.
Definitely. I'm conscious a little bit of time. I think because I've shared the link actually to your project in the chat box here, and I've shared links about all of the relevant things we've spoken about today. If anybody's got any questions, please pop them in now and we'll see if we can get round to them. But I think, Tanya, because you were part of Aviva and you did such a great job at not only securing the Aviva employee money, but you also, was it Net as well that you received money from?
Yes.
So that's just proof on that applying for additional funds on top of what you think you're going to be getting is really important.
And it's just double checking again where you put your first marker. So we put it at 2,000 really as a test, because again, still 2,000 would get us a workshop to help 200 people. This is we kept on quantifying as a charity where their money will go straight away to help a person. And then when we went above 2,000, it's like, wow, okay, right, I'll go back to the training. What do we need to do now? So I had put provisional of 5,000 as the next one. We got to that in no time. And again, it was like having that supporters. So watching where we were on that front page. I mean, I went onto the Aviva page every day and we were visible without searching for us. We had just managed to get the initial supporters, and then it went down. And so we were on the second column. And then by the time, we shared another story, we were sharing quotes from some of the supporters of like, good luck, brilliant to see, respond to them directly and say, we're going to share your quote, thank you so much. And then we were on the top line in the top 4. It was so exciting to see that. So we could always be seen without being searched, and particularly being in Scotland, and we're only in Scotland, and it was, digital exclusion in Scotland. We wanted to be specific of where we are based, but it didn't just get people in Scotland, Scottish people supporting us. It got a kind of a national support. And then, when we were able to go for the local fund, it was like, right, here we go again. This is fantastic. And it gave us, I'd had lots of stories ready to share, like PR. If we get there, we can share this. If we get there, we can then promote and support. So I learned so much from it. There's still a lot more for me to learn and progress with crowdfunding. But of course, it had our whole team, really happy and applauding and thinking, right, where can we go next to use this as a very much a communication tool, rather than, I'm not saying only, but filling in an application form that goes to the Scottish government, which you can't share with anyone else.
And actually, it's something that we find becomes a really useful resource for you to keep as an organisation, because you're always going to feature that link, is always going to go to your page. So actually, when you're having those conversations post successful crowdfunder with any other financially supporting bodies, you can say, this is what we've achieved. Look Absolutely. At our comments of support. Look at how many people got behind us and actually made this happen. We are valid. This is why we need to be here. Look at our page. And I think that's something that people don't necessarily take on board when they're setting up a crowdfunder, that actually the legacy of having run a successful crowdfunder, you can use that as a tool going forward for any future promotion. If you decide to launch a second crowdfunder, refer back to the first. This is what we did, last year. This is what we're doing now. When you're looking at applying for additional funds, grant funders, here's a link to what we've achieved. This is why we're important.
Absolutely, and that's
really good.
Yeah, and that's what I came into using it as my marketing background, as a marketing tool, and then we were able to do that easily, way above what I expected. But this will be used. I mean, I've opened my account, my page. I'm pointing at my other screen where it's opened so many times, just to remember what we wrote, what we pledged, and what we can now evidence going forward, which will help us in future crowdfunding and any other application.
That's amazing. Tanya, thank you so much. I think that's a really good takeaway piece of advice, actually, is to kind of think of it in the long term as well as just the short term projects and financial raise. We often talk about people's project pages being a shop window into their organisation, or who they are, and that is ultimately what you're creating for a wider audience. And forevermore, have it as something that you can refer back to as a marketing tool, I think is wonderful. If you wouldn't mind hanging on a moment, we've just had a question come through from Ruth, just in regards to, I mentioned about promotion and promoting at various points of your crowdfunder. She's just asking, I would have assumed that you'd go nuts on social media immediately. Obviously not, when I've talked about leaving it a little while until you've got a decent amount of money raised. It all depends how quickly you can get those initial pledges in. If you're raising 20-30% within the first couple of days, absolutely shout about it on social media sooner, but I would always suggest that you are having that soft launch ahead of time, ahead of doing that, making sure you've secured a decent amount onto your page from a good amount of supporters, because ultimately people are going to want to support that if they see it's successful. In terms of a document with those figures on it, you will have a replay to this. There is more information in the Knowledge Hub about promoting the Crowdfunder, as in the Learn platform as well. So make sure you utilize those two things. I'm just going to, oh, there we go. Could have put that there. That would have been better, but it was nicer to see your project. If there's anybody's got any questions for Tanya, please pop them in the chat. Oh, what's happening here? Please pop them in the chat box now, so we can go through any of those. I'm conscious that we've run over the hour by a little bit, so I don't want to keep people too much longer, but I do want to give you the opportunity to ask Tanya or myself any additional questions if you so wish. Aside from that, though, your next steps will be to go and take part in the Learn platform. I've shared the link into the chat box. I will put it in the follow-up email. Check for that extra funding. Have a look on the extra funding page, and let's, just see if you've got anything that is a good fit that your project's going to be eligible for. Explore those other projects. So Tanya highlighted that she looked, at the Aviva Community Fund, what had come before her. If you're generally crowdfunding and you're not taking part in Aviva, you can do that on the main site, as we showed earlier on the slides. If you're taking part in Aviva, if you just Google Aviva Community Fund, you'll come up with the microsite and you can explore all of those projects there. But it's a really good starting place. See what's come before you. And then obviously sign up for Crowdfunder as well. Make sure that you are signed in and start putting all of those things in there we go, in place to set up your page. Just a few little bits here. We've got the support email address. As I mentioned, please do look at the help centre ahead of time before contacting support. They are a small team. They will get back to you, but it does take a little while, a couple of days at least. And then Facebook and Twitter, whenever you are sharing anything to do with your crowdfunding page, make sure that you are tagging in Crowdfunder on Facebook and Twitter as well. If your promotion, if you are your activity on these platforms are gaining traction, you may well fall onto the radar of our wonderful social media and marketing team, where they will pick up things that have got a lot of activity and may well get reshared as well. So do make sure to tag us in, and also tag any extra funders or any of those wonderful businesses that have gifted you rewards. Make sure you're collaboratively promoting, and that's a really, really lovely way to help widen your reach as well. Don't think Tanya's helpfully put her email in there, which is brilliant if anybody would like to contact her directly, but I haven't seen any more questions come in through here. So I think we will wrap it up for today, but thank you so much, Tanya, for joining us. Some really useful information there, and I really hope that people have taken a lot away from that. It's really, really interesting. So thank you.
You're welcome. No, thank you for inviting us.
Not a problem. And thank you everybody for attending as well. Good luck with starting your crowdfunding journey, and do please come along to any of those drop-ins if you have any further questions. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.